Thank you, Tammy. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's a tremendous pleasure to be back in Saskatchewan, here in Saskatoon. Merci, mes amis. I am really touched by the welcome. Please sit down. We've got a good hour ahead of us in which I very much look forward to taking as many questions as possible from people in the audience, because we know that we're all facing, as Canadians, an important choice coming up on October 21st. And part of the democratic process needs to be people engaging, taking questions, giving answers, and talking about the choices we need to make, not just at election time, but the choices we make as a country on how we move forward, how we build a better future for everyone, how we make sure that we're on the right track on all sorts of different levels, from working in partnership with Indigenous communities and Indigenous peoples to build a better future, to getting the balance right between growing the economy and protecting the environment at the same time. And one of the essential pieces of doing that is to make sure we have extraordinary people stepping up to represent their communities. And of that, Tammy Cook-Searson is an amazing example, along with our other great candidates. I want to take a moment, though, Tammy, the fact that you've chosen, after a career of serving in your communities, of leadership within your communities, to step up and be part of our team to move not just Saskatchewan, not just Indigenous peoples, but Canada forward, is extraordinarily exciting for me. And I think it's a recognition of the fact that politics can matter when you bring in the right people. Évidemment, ce n'est pas une soirée pour de longs discours, c'est une soirée pour prendre des questions. J'ai bien hâte de prendre vos questions. Je soupçonne que ça va être surtout en anglais, mais si vous avez des questions en français, je serai très content d'y répondre. I'm going to be happy to take questions in both official languages, and I'm going to try and get to as many questions as I can. But we'll remember as well that when someone's asking a question, we deserve to give them respect and listen to them. And you may hear things that you disagree with, either when someone's asking a question or when I'm answering. But if we're all respectful for each other, that's how democracies work best. And I very much look forward to that this evening. Well, with that, I'm going to start with a question from this section, and I'm going to work my way around clockwise. So does someone have a question in here? You, in the blue dress, yes.
How does it feel like to be a prime minister?
One of the great things about this job is I get to get out across the country and do what I'm doing right now, which is have conversations with Canadians. And that's not something that just happens at election time for me. I've been really pleased that over the past 4 years, I've been able every year to go out on a town hall tour at the beginning of the year to give Canadians an opportunity to express their concerns, ask me questions about where we're going and what we're doing. And we're going to continue to do that over the course of this campaign, and hopefully for the next 4 years as well. And that's my favorite thing about being Prime Minister. Thank you for that question. Any other questions? Yes, you may.
Good evening, Your Honor. I'm Darlene Rose.
Just call me Justin. It's okay.
Okay, Justin. Okay, this is probably about the 8th time I've spoken to you on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And I was in attendance at the final report, and I was very, very pleased with the volumes that came out and the 2 years of everyone working hard across the country. I was just wondering about the national action plan that was discussed, and is there something coming down that we can look forward to? Because here in Saskatoon, we've been working really hard, and the city of Saskatoon wants to work on those calls for justice, and I'd just like to hear what's going to be happening.
Thank you, Darlene. Thank you for that question. It is a ongoing national tragedy and has been for decades that too many Indigenous women and girls gone missing and murdered and have been ignored or not taken seriously as non-Indigenous women and girls would have been. And that is something that as a country we needed to face. And that's why we moved ahead with that national public inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls who did an extraordinary job of keeping the families at the center of the work that they were doing. But getting out and talking to communities, listening to survivors, listening to family members, so that we could get some sort of justice for the victims, give some healing to the families, and most importantly, put an end to this ongoing national tragedy. Unfortunately, we know, like so many difficult issues, there is no simple one answer to this. And the work that so many people have already been doing across the country is an important piece of it, but it does take national leadership. It does take investments. And we didn't wait until the report came out. We didn't wait till the even interim report came out to take some meaningful steps forward on fighting against gender-based violence, on keeping our communities more safe, on making investments in the Highway of Tears in BC and other places. But we know there's much more to do. That's why we have accepted the calls to action and will be working with organizations, women's groups, leaders, and Indigenous peoples to make sure that we are fulfilling those in the right way to put an end to this ongoing national tragedy. Thank you for your leadership. Next question. Yes.
Hi, Justin. Thanks for taking my question. Earlier today, you were questioned about how many times you have appeared in blackface or brownface. I'll make it easy. Is it possible to round to the nearest 5?
Okay. I'm not going to make light of the situation. I don't think it's something that we should be making light of. I think far too many people in this country face discrimination and intolerance on a daily basis. And what I did was inexcusable and wrong and hurt a lot of people who considered me to be an ally. And that is wrong. And I am deeply, deeply sorry. There is no way to sugarcoat it. It was something that I did wrong. And I take responsibility for it. As we move forward as a country, as I move forward and continue to try and continue to fight against intolerance and racism with my actions, I also take responsibility for the fact that I lacked respect towards people who already faced tremendous discrimination, and that is something that I apologize for. Thank you. Next question. You, sir, in the yellow vest.
Mr. Prime Minister.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to thank you very much, first of all, for attending in Saskatoon. And there's something that I wanted to tell you about. Please do not apologize. You're a teacher. You were teaching young kids. I would want you for a teacher. When you were young, you were in school. And please, when we have this debate, let's not go back digging up bones 15 years. What are we doing now and in the present? Like what's going to happen with Iran and all the rest of the country.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the sentiment. But there was no excusing what I did, and I'm sorry that I did it. But at the same time, yes, we do need to focus on how we move forward as a country on many, many big issues. But one of those issues is making sure that your leaders don't hurt people who already face discrimination and marginalization too much in their daily lives. So I appreciate the support, but it is something that I take very seriously that I did, that I shouldn't have done. And yes, I think people know that I have been lucky enough in my life to represent an extraordinary diverse community in Papineau that that I work very, very hard to make things better for, that I fight against intolerance for, and that's why what I did was particularly unacceptable. But thank you. Chief.
Thank you, Prime Minister. First of all, I just want to say welcome to our territory here in Saskatchewan.
Thank you for the
My
welcome
name
to
is
Treaty
Vice Chief
6.
David Pratt. Appreciate you coming to our assembly in May. Two quick questions, but first, before I get to them, number one, I want to tell you I accept your apology. And I want to acknowledge the work that you've done with us on child welfare. C92 has been a game changer for First Nations here in Saskatchewan, particularly with the high numbers of our children in care. So I have a question on that. Number one is, will there be statutory funding coming forth for implementation on C92, which is the next step? Will you make a commitment to that today? And also the North of 60 claim for the Athabasca Den in the North, will you commit to reopen that and not support those negotiations that have been ongoing for 30 plus years? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your leadership. On Child and Family Services, we recognize, and I think all of